Ah, the tangled webs we weave.
Oh, I missed the head. Better luck next time.
Oh, need a revive. I'm like out in the middle. Coming to you guys. Oh yeah.
Wow.
What the hell happened?
Mara happened.
What's going on, y'all? It's David, and we are back with another Borderlands 3 original build video. I first want to start off by saying that I just love using builds that have supportive functions in combinations that you don't see too often. This build is a byproduct of those two things, and so this video will be covering my offensive support AMPLIFL4K build for Mayhem 4, where you rack spam and grenade spam your enemies into oblivion. I also posted an in-depth written description on Reddit and in my Discord. I'll leave the link to the Reddit post and also my Discord link both in the description below if you would rather read it. Really quick, if you liked the video at the end, please go down and TDR check that like button for me and leave me a comment with anything you want to say. It really helps me out a ton and I appreciate the heck out of all of you for watching this. So, kicking off the guide, like my other build guides, we'll be starting off at the skill tree. This time at the hunter side of the tree with 5 points into Interplanetary Stalker for some raw damage. There isn't really much to say about the skill because it's pretty black and white. Next, we'll max out the package of Leave No Trace and Head Count. We're going to be hitting the capstone for the hunter tree here, and these two abilities help us keep our ammo up and our action skill cooldown time down respectively. I also like to pick up 5 points into Hunter's Eye here because the bonus that it gives you are really helpful. Next, I max out 2 Fang because it gives you essentially just more DPS when it procs, and it helps you hit more crits because of the extra projectiles. Depending on what gun you're using, you can instead put these points into Big Game or the Most Dangerous Game. Further down the tree, I like to put 1 point into Galactic Shadow because it's hard to die when enemies are just hardly targeting you, and an alive support is probably the best kind of support. I also max out Grim Harvest here because it gives some nice gun damage as well as action skill damage. And finally, for this side of the skill tree, I put a point into Megavore so we can hit some very important crits and refill our ammo and lower our action skill cooldown. Next, we'll head on over to the Stalker tree to put 5 points into Self-Repairing System for the bonus health and health regen. This skill is also pretty simplistic. I also like to max out all my BFFs, so the extra health regen from Self-Repairing System is nice. If you're a solo player or a more aggressive player, consider putting 5 points into Furious Attack for the damage that it gives you. Next, I max out Eager to Impress because between the Megavore crits and the rack spam, we do a pretty good job at mobbing ourselves, so getting stray kills really boosts our action skill cooldown rate. On the third tier, I max out both Lick the Wounds and Turn Tail and Run. Lick the Wounds is just a nice failsafe. If you're playing alone, it's extremely reliable, and if you're in a party, it allows your teammates to carry on without risking having to revive you. Turn Tail and Run just gives you a good spread of stats, the health regen stacks with all my BFFs, and the gun damage and fire rate are just icing on top. For the rest of the points, I like to put them into Fast and the Furious because I do a pretty good job at staying out of harm's way to get the most out of these points. If you find yourself not above half health a lot, then consider putting these points into Hidden Machine. For the action skill here, we're obviously taking the Rack Attack, and for the augments, I always go Rack Accelerate because it's just perfect for this sort of thing, and I personally like to go with Falconer's Feast to keep my HP up. But you can most definitely instead go with Flock and Load for a more reliable and damaging rack attack. For the pet, my favorite for this build is the Spider Ant Scorcher because she gives you health regen alongside elemental damage, but I also really enjoy using the Beefcake Jabber because it gives you super helpful movement speed and max health. The Beefcake is also a better option if you're playing co-op and your teammates all have Deathless because the health regen doesn't really do anything for them. Now that we're done with the build and all the boring stuff, we can get to the spicy stuff, the gear. First, you want to be using a weapon with the Beastmaster Anoint of enemies damaged by rack attack take 100% increased damage for a short time, because how else can we call ourselves AMPLIFL4K? This was pretty much the only required gear for this build, and luckily it is extremely flexible because it comes on any weapon, so pick your favorite weapon and make sure it has this anointment. My favorite one to use is the Brainstormer because combined with our skill tree skills, we crit a butt ton, meaning we get our ammo and action skill cooldown time replenished super rapidly. Although, since the Brainstormer sucks for solo targets, I like to carry a Maggie with me that has the same anointment to burst down the poor lone enemy. Next, for the shield, you can pick any shield you want here, but the anointment that I recommend is the one where on action skill end, action skill cooldown rate is increased by 20% for a short time. This basically reduces the cooldown time on your rack attack because it takes into effect as soon as you throw your racks out. I normally use this with the transformer because the shield is just reliable in a majority of places. For the grenade for this build, you want to be using the It's Piss grenade because it amplifies damage to targets affected by your vial fluid, and this amplification stacks with your rack attack annoy on your weapon. If you don't believe me, I have a clip where I shoot with my affinity to show the damage at first, and then I rack attack and then shoot to show that the damage was amplified, and then I rack attack and It's Piss grenade and then shoot to show how it amplifies the damage even more. I have no skill points allotted and no other gear on to make sure that the damage is correct, and also no skags were harmed in the making of this clip. Enjoy! So yeah, this grenade alongside the weapon anointment are what really turn you into an offensive support. My anointment of choice on this grenade is the on action skill start regenerate 1 grenade, because with your rack attack spam you should never really run out of grenades and the enemies should always be covered in P. A neat function also built into this grenade is that it can remove status effects from allies, so if you or any ally is about to go down from burning or melting or something, just toss a little P on them and put them right out. Next, for the class mod, I like to use the Rack Pack mod that was released with the Takedown DLC. This mod basically makes your rack attacks just more reliable and spreads them out to ensure that you hit as many enemies as possible before they return to you. The one that I've been using has the skill points spread out with 2 into Grim Harvest, 1 into Head Count, and 2 into Pack Tactics. Ideally, for a supportive style, you would want more points into Head Count for the cooldown rate on your action skill, or Pack Tactics because it increases both your maximum health and all damage dealt. If you're looking for one for a more aggressive build, you would just want points into mainly Grim Harvest and Pack Tactics. The stats that are rolled are also pretty average with universal weapon damage and fire rate with shield recharge delay, but for this kind of build you would really want like action skill cooldown rate somewhere in there. Lastly, I just use a simple cut purse artifact here because I usually run with a party and I love having this artifact alongside a face puncher to keep the ammo of my teammates full. If you don't know exactly what this does, I cover it more in depth in my other support Flak video, and I'll leave a link to that video in the description, and I'll also put a link to it in the upper right corner of your screen, so click on that if you're interested. In short, this artifact gives you and your allies ammo on melee hits, and the face puncher pellets count as melee hits, so you can safely max out you and your teammates' ammo from a distance. I also use this because it gives some nice health regen that stacks with our All My BFF skill to share that health regen with my teammates. Ideally, you'd want 21% action skill cooldown rate on top of all this, but I've yet to find an artifact with those. That's going to wrap it up for this build, and for the first time in my build videos, I do want to go over the general gameplay and how I recommend that you play this build. This build is very simplistic. You basically want to debuff your enemies and keep yourself alive. For mobbing, the order that I like to do things is first rack attack to apply the 100% increased damage, then shoot off my brainstormer into the group of enemies for damage. While I shoot my brainstormer, I try not to ADS, which is aim down sights, so that I can throw grenades to further amplify the damage that they take, and eventually my rack attack cooldown will be back up to use again, which refills more grenades, and then I can start the cycle all over again. Once the majority of enemies are gone, I like to swap to my Maggie to try and finish off the remaining unlucky foes. For bossing, I just try to spam rack attacks and grenades and just let my teammates dish out the DPS. As the support, I just focus on staying alive, and if someone goes down, I try to communicate with them to either help them kill the target to get their second wind up, or just go revive them. Also make sure that you are frequently swapping to your face puncher and firing off a few shots to refill your team's ammo. And now that is going to do it for my AMPLIFL4K support video. I think that this build is one of the best Mallow 1 takedown builds out there for Mayhem 4. If you like the video, please just leave me a like, and please do not hesitate to drop me a comment down below with your questions or your thoughts or whatever you want to say, because I reply to every single comment on all my videos. If you're on PS4 and you'd like to try this build, I can drop you whatever piece that you need. Just message me on Discord or just leave me a comment below and I'll get you situated. My PC and Xbox viewers, don't worry, because you can still leave a comment or just join the Discord and ask around, because I'm positive that someone out there can help you. Make sure to TD or check that subscribe button and the notification bell to support me and to make sure that you don't miss out on any future content. Don't forget to check the video description for links to my other build videos and informational videos, and I also have a link to the spreadsheet where I give away items there all the time. That's going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching till the end. I'll check you all in the next video. See ya.
Need a revive. I'm like out in the middle. Coming to you guys. Oh yeah.
Opposites attracted, magnetic and irreplaceable. Picture perfect, photogenic, douse diminished. Yes, I'm finished acting like nobody has my back. Girl, you told me that I'ma keep you steady on your path, so I'm known.